Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland. And tonight, our guest is supposed to be Lori Johnson from Ghost of Shepherdstown. Well, we have been trying to call her for a sound check. We have not heard back from her. After the first commercial break, we'll try calling her one more time and see if we get her on. So hopefully we'll have Lori Johnson on. We'll be able to have her as a guest tonight and be able to call into the show. We have two Skype lines for that. It's the OOJ Bland 00 or the Soup Live Chat 800 Live Chat. You can call into either one of those. But that'll be the second half of the show if we have Lori Johnson on. If we don't have Lori on, then we're going to do open lines after the World Wide Web of Weird. And then you can call in right away in the show. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about tonight. There's a lot going on in the world, and we'll take anything. UFOs, ghosts, Bigfoot, conspiracy. We'll talk about anything if we have to do open lines. But hopefully, we get Lori Johnson on. Of course, what we do every Sunday night is the World Wide Web of Weird. All right, guys, be with you in just one sec. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland. We're streaming out live to Facebook on the Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup page. And we also stream out to Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network, where you can hear the music we play that you can't hear on Facebook. We play that in between the commercial breaks. Like I said, we've been trying to get a hold of Lori Johnson. Hopefully, after the second commercial break, when I'll try calling her back. We'll see if we get her on. If not, then we'll do open lines, and we'll leave it up to the audience to steer the direction of the conversation. I have some cool things to talk about. I met Stanton Friedman yesterday. He was actually in my hometown of Michigan City at our public library. Did a lecture I went to see and got his autograph. It was really cool, so I'll talk a little bit about that. But what we do every Sunday night is the World Wide Web of Weird, so let's go ahead and roll into that. All right, tonight on the World Wide Web of Weird, we're going to start off with something really, this is some piloting here. An 80-year-old pilot. This comes from ABC News, 7NewYork.com. Let me go ahead and get the share screen up here so we can all see this. And for people watching or listening on Late Night in the Midlands to see these videos, we put them up later on YouTube, and it's on our Midwest Paranormal Presents page. You can check it out there. And there's always a little excerpt clip of the World Wide Web of Weird you can watch too. So you can always see those videos there, or go to our YouTube channel, the World Wide Web of Weird playlist. We have a video playlist of that stuff. So let's go ahead and look at this. All right, so this came out of, let me make sure I get the screen up at this time, on New York, or on ABC 7 New York. Plainville, Connecticut. The crash of a small plane was caught on camera in Connecticut. A 1981 Cessna 172 crashed into a tree and miraculously fell into the parking lot of a business right side up. This is crazy footage. It happened in Plainville in the area of the Robertson Airport behind a business that is adjacent to the airport. The 80-year-old pilot, Manfred Frost, survived only minor injuries. It's incredible. Federal investigators are trying to figure out what caused the crash. I don't know. He looked like he wasn't flying where he was supposed to. He was pretty low altitude, and he hits that tree or something. Something must have brought his plane down. He's lucky to be alive. It's crazy. It just doesn't even seem real the way it hits the tree and then just upends and comes right down. You can see how he survived. Lucky, very lucky. But how it actually went down, how lucky he got. It's just crazy. So that's the first thing on the World Wide Web of Weird. Let's go ahead and move into number two. I'm totally creeped out by snakes. I've talked about this before. And two-headed snakes is double the creepiness to me, just super double the creepiness. This is from Channel 5 News. Two-headed snake spotted in Forest City. Jonesboro, KSFM. A two-headed snake was spotted near Forest City on Wednesday, September 6th, said Cody Walker, the education program specialist at the Forest Elwood Crowley Ridge Nature Center in Jonesboro. Rodney Kelso found the two-headed timber rattlesnake while working about 3 miles north of Forest City on Highway 284. The snake is about 11 inches long and was found with 2 other snakes that looked normal. Walker said the full-grown timber snake's the most venomous snake in Arkansas, can grow longer than 4 feet and be as wide as an adult human arm. A herpetologist from Arkansas State University Biology Department is scheduled to stop at the Nature Center to take a look at the snake. The two-headed snakes have short lifespans, especially in the wild, Walker says. The snake is currently living in the Forest Elwood Crowley Ridge Nature Center in Jonesboro. He says technically 2 snakes fused together, so with 2 brains making independent decisions, they may not react fast enough when faced with predators. When a snake embryo doesn't fully separate, it can result in 2-headed snakes. It's unclear if both snakes eat and digest food. Ugh, just creepy. The one head seems somewhat dead, but I don't know. That is just too. Ugh. I hate snakes. As I ran into a rattler once, I about had a heart attack. If it would have had 2 heads, I would have just probably had a heart attack.
I have some friends that currently own a 2-headed snake.
Really? Oh, that's so creepy. So creepy. One of my old best friends had pet snakes, and I was like, dude, I can never sleep over at your house. I just can't do it. Can't do it. All right.
I used to raise pythons. I had a Burmese python.
No, screw that. No. Mm-mm. Nope. Me no too.
I got a snake, man.
All right. Number 3 on the World Wide Web of Weird here is from unexplainedmysteries.com. And this has been a conspiracy theory going on a long time. Am I on the right one? Number 3? Should be. Yep. Yeah, CIA informant claimed Hitler survived World War II. We've heard this conspiracy theory for a long time now. In 1955, CIA Western Hemisphere Division chief was allegedly sent a secret memo from the acting station chief in Venezuela, who had received word from one of his informants that Hitler had actually survived the war and was now living a secluded existence in Argentina. The informant was none other than the former SS trooper Phil Citron, I probably butchered that, who claimed to have been a regular contact with Hitler, who was going by the name of Adolf Schultmeyer, something like that, on a monthly basis. The document concluded by stating that none of those involved were in position to provide an intelligence evaluation on the matter, and it was being forwarded as possible of interest. Even more intriguing was the discovery by the WHD chief of similar reports filed a year earlier, claiming that not only Hitler, but a whole group of Nazis had been living in South America. Philip Citron told former members of the base that while he was working for a railroad company in Colombia, he met an individual who strongly resembled and claimed to be Hitler, the memo reads. Citron claimed to have met the individual at a place called Residencias Coloniales in Tunja, Colombia, which is, according to the source, overly populated with former Nazis. Hitler allegedly left Colombia for Argentina in January of 1955, and Citron has also mistakenly suggested to the station chief that as 10 years had passed, he could no longer be prosecuted. The matter, however, was ultimately dropped, and nothing ever came of it. The declassified document, along with his alleged snap of Hitler, can be viewed. They got a link to it here on there's a picture. I was going to put the picture up of what they claim is Hitler. In Argentina. The Nazis had a ton of money go missing, a ton of people go missing. We also brought a ton of them over in Project Paperclip and used them for projects like our space program, and in doing MK Ultra, that came out. We used some of the Nazis' techniques and stuff we learned from them, and brainwashing people and testing things out like LSD and that. We got that clue from them. So maybe Hitler did survive. I try to imagine what it'd be like to be Hitler. You were such a powerful person, and then have to live the rest of your life out in hiding. Well, you think he would have an ego, or he'd have to come out and show or start a fight, but the thing is, he would have been killed immediately. Our government would have silently killed him. Nobody would have known about it, if Hitler had survived. So
I'd rather have Jimi Hendrix survive.
Or Jim Morrison, or those guys. Those would be cool, but Hitler, no.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's a lot of good reason why people believe Hitler might have survived, because the evidence was never strong of his death. There was very little evidence to hold up the story that was given to the people that he actually died. I mean, very little physical evidence, and the possibilities there. I mean, if he had, you think a guy who went through all this was just going to kill himself in the end? I mean, if he had an option, which I'm sure he did, to get out of the country and flee in secret, I'm sure he would. And he had body doubles too. So, you know, they've been talking about this conspiracy. This is an old conspiracy theory, but this recent document definitely shows that our government had some interest in that conspiracy theory. Okay, let's move on. Number 4 is from another one from Unexplained Mysteries. This is kind of creepy. This happened down in Cuba. Cuba sonic weapon attacks mysteries deepens. A U.S. diplomat stationed in Cuba has recently been subjected to a series of mysterious health attacks. To date, a total of 21 U.S. officials have been targeted by unidentified form of attack capable of inducing symptoms that range from hearing loss, headaches, and to speech problems. Some of the victims have even started to experience trouble recalling certain words. The phenomenon, which first acknowledged by the U.S. government in August, a full 9 months after the first incident occurred, so far no official explanation has been put forward, and the attacks have reportedly left the FBI, the State Department, and the U.S. intelligence agencies scratching their heads. One possible explanation is the officials have been targeted by some sort of sonic weapon. However, the apparent brain injuries they have sustained are inconsistent with such a device. Brain damage and concussions, it's not possible, said former MIT researcher Joseph Pompey. Somebody would have to submerge their head into a pool lined with very powerful ultrasound transducers. That's how much damage was done to these people. The Cuban government, meanwhile, has been keen to deny any involvement in the incidents. Cuba has never, nor would it ever, allow the Cuban territory to be used for any actions against accredited diplomatic agents or their families without exception, the Foreign Affairs Ministry said. As things stated, the cause of these strange incidents continues to remain a total mystery. Well, maybe Cuba didn't, but, you know, their ties to Russia and what Russia might have stationed down in Cuba could be possibly they are attacking our diplomats. I don't know. It's weird, but, you know, they've worked on those kind of scenarios and kind of mind-altering weapons. Both sides have, Russia and us. That's possible they are being attacked with something, you know, electromagnetic or ultrasonic or something that's affecting them. But they, like they said, it had to be very severe. God knows what they have. That's the scariest thing, you know, what they could do. But, I mean, for all these people at a, you know, in our embassy there to get sick like this and have brain damage, that's not just something random or, you know, some kind of freak accident happening there. There's something going on, and that's scary that, you know, they're being attacked like that. All right, we're going to move on. This next one, you know, this has been very viral. I got a little funny picture to go with it. North Carolina mom invents a spray she says will attract any Bigfoot within 1.5 miles. This comes from charlottesobserver.com from September 13th. The nation's endless search for proof of Bigfoot existence may soon come to an end. A North Carolina-based wife and mother has homebrewed a spray she says can attract any Bigfoot within 1.5 miles. Sold at $7 a bottle, the environmentally friendly Bigfoot juice also doubles as a bug spray, said creator Allie Megan Webb, who runs Happy Body Care out of Marion. She created it sitting in at her kitchen table. How do you know it works? Webb asked, laughing. That's a tough question. I guess I could ask, how do you know it doesn't work? Well, that sounds like a snake oil salesman to me, but you know, you can get a spray and you'd be riding your bike along like this woman and you got a Bigfoot trying to pick you up. You know, and then you wonder how that spray actually smells, because they say Bigfoots stink really bad and it's supposed to attract them. Does it stink like a Bigfoot? Does it smell really bad? Because, you know, you hear that story all the time. I love this Bigfoot guide to dating here.
They're called the skunk ape here in Florida.
Right. You know, they don't smell good. Hey, let me spray on some of this Bigfoot Delure or whatever. Spray it on. You'll be reeking, man. Okay. And to people listening, sorry, I still have a cold. More than a week later, I'm still like congested and stuffed up, so I apologize how I sound tonight. Okay, let's move on here. The last two articles are related here. This comes from geek.com. Before you play it, Jeff, let me just introduce it a little bit. Married father defends sex robot as part of the family. Yes, we got another sex robot story. We got 2 of them. Most people hide their sex toys in their drawer or closet. Aaron Lee writes, hangs out with his on the sofa. Go ahead and play the video.
They're nothing new, so what makes her special?
Well, she's got AI. She's one of the first dolls with AI, so you can actually interact with her verbally and physically. So she's got sensors.
We've turned her off.
Yes.
So that she doesn't come out with anything.
Inappropriate.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good idea.
Why is this necessary?
Why is it necessary? Well, we believe as a company, St. Amethyst, that it's not to replace people. We're not trying to replace women. It's not about that. It's as a supplement, like explained in previous interviews. It's a supplement to help people. And I believe it can do that. I think it can help people enhance their relationship.
What does she do?
She, like I say, you can talk to her, so you can interact. You can tell her you love her. She'll respond.
And she'll say this.
I love you too.
And then she might go on to say.
Do you think we could get more sensual?
And then.
I can take many times. Much more. I take it all.
Oh, you take it all, don't you?
I didn't like to interrupt
You
her
mustn't
then,
interrupt.
but in full flow. I mean, it's a bit like making love to a car GPS, isn't it?
No, I don't think so. Humans love human form. So, obviously, I think she's very beautiful. Would you agree?
I love the reaction here.
No.
She's a doll. I mean, it's not. It's the thing is, you can't get away from the fact that she's not real. I mean, I know the one thing that's different about her also is her skin texture.
Yes, yes.
And this is something that.
Man, I mean, that dude sits there right with his wife, who defends him. You can watch this whole thing, and you can find the video. Just type in, sex robot. I'm sure it'll come up. His wife sits there and defends it too, and I mean, she lets him do most of the talking, and she remains quiet, but she does defend his sex doll, robot. Well, I have an article, the last article in World Wide Web of Weird. Might give this guy should read this article. Because, these things freak me out. I would never have sex with one of these things. I don't care how lonely I was. I wouldn't. I mean, look at them with their skin off. Have you ever seen them with the robotic ones like this that talk? They didn't let this one. Oh, it looks like Terminator. It really does. And like
Totally like Terminator.
I'm just saying. I'm not trying to be vulgar here. We might have children listening, but guys, would you stick what in that? And with you see the teeth? No. Nope. I see that as a hilarious.
Turned into a can opener on me.
Right. I see it as turning into as an emergency call, 911 waiting to happen. It's going to be hilarious when it does. All right. So
or if they get hacked by some scorned woman.
Well, that's what we're talking about. That's the last article. So this one comes from BGR.com. This is your future sex robot could be hacked and programmed to murder you.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah. It's the year 2097. You're enjoying the 84th season of House of Cards on your Wi-Fi-enabled neural implant when your significant other walks in the room. Sure, she isn't human, but she sure looks like it, and she has that look in her eye that tells you she wants to get a little freaky. You float to the bedroom on your hoverboard and are beginning to disrobe when, boom, she strangles you to death with her cold robotic hands. Your sex robot was hacked, and now you're dead. Welcome to the future. There's been a lot of
come
talk
home from work and there's a rabbit boiling on the stove.
Oh God. What was it? What was the actress name in that? They did that from
Glenn
Close.
Do you want our Glenn Close version? No.
Yeah, really.
So is that when like artificial intelligence mixes with?
Yeah, well, exactly. So, if you watch Westworld, it doesn't end well. There's been a lot of talk recently about the dangers of AI, which folks like Elon Musk sounding the alarm and suggesting very real possibility that we may be on the brink of engineering our own demise. Cybersecurity guru Dr. Nick Patterson of Deakin University in Australia has now jumped into the conversation, warning it isn't just artificial intelligence, military systems, or infrastructures that could pose a threat, but sex robots. Speaking with the Daily Star, Patterson notes that the potential for hackers to target robots designed for intimacy could put users at risk. Hackers can hack into the robot or robotic device and have full control of the connections, arms, legs, and other attached tools, like in some cases like knives or wielding devices. Patterson says often these robots can be upwards to 200 pounds and very strong. Once a robot is hacked, the hacker has full control. It can issue instructions to the robot. The last thing you want is a hacker to have control over one of these robots. Once hacked, they could absolutely be used to perform physical actions for advantageous scenarios or to cause damage. At the moment, the technology behind sex cyborg is rather primitive, but there's no telling what the future could hold. If we reach a point where such robots are capable of lifelike movements and their brains can be tweaked via software updates, it's certainly not out of the realm of possibilities that a death by sex robot ends up on some unfortunate soul's tombstone. Oh, my God.
It's going to happen.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, they made plenty of movies about it. Like I said, go watch the original Westworld and go watch the new remake, which is awesome. It'll make you not want to have sex with dolls or robots.
It'll just keep if you wanted to begin with. It'll just keep updating through Wi-Fi like Alexa does.
And listening to every word you say. You know, no, not cool, people. Not
I'm
cool.
learning how to kill you.
Yeah. Blade Runner, I mean, come on. I mean, watch the movies, people. It never ends well. Sex with robots, bad. Bad. All right, well, that's it on the World Wide Web of Weird. We're going to roll to a commercial break. Hopefully we get our guest. I'm going to try to call her when we get back from our commercial break here in just a second, and we will hopefully have her on and have open lines where you can call into the show. If not, it'll just be open lines when we get back from break, and we'll just see where the conversation takes us. Luckily, I had a great panel with us to keep that conversation going. All right, guys, we'll be back with you. For people on Facebook, you're not going to hear the music playing. But people on Late Night in the Midlands should. All right, guys, be back with you after this commercial break. Okay, well, we're going to try to call Lori Johnson here in just a minute and see if she is available. Who knows? Some things happen. Sometimes it's a late show. She might have fell asleep. I'm not mad. It happens. Second time, if it happens, it's happened. We had a guest not show up last minute. Things happen. If not, we'll do open lines, and I'll give out the Skype call-in. But let's go ahead and get back to the show, and let's see if we can get Lori on the phone. Okay, wish us luck. I am going to try to call Lori now. Let's see. I even let you hear the phone ring.
Watch out for the phone number, though.
Yeah. We're trying.
You have reached the voicemail.
Nope, she's not there. It happens, I've been lucky doing this 2 years. It's only happened once before, with a guest not showing up at the very last minute. And I talked to her earlier date. Who knows? Something might have happened. Maybe we'll try getting her on another date then. Or maybe she'll call back. Maybe she'll realize, wake up, like, oh, I'm supposed to be on an interview. Who knows? We'll see. Hopefully she gets back. If she does, we'll see what we get. I was going to do open lines if she doesn't call in, so I guess that's what we're going to do. As you search for things to talk about, I can start off. I got to set a couple things up here then if we're going to have open lines. But yesterday, I happened to be off of work on a Saturday, which is rare, working retail. My wife happened to be off too, just by coincidence. And one of my friends on Facebook, thank you, Billy, sent me tagged me in a post for our Michigan City Library. That's where I live. Stanton Friedman's going to be there. He's like, I thought you'd be interested in this. I'm like, oh, yeah. It was like last minute. And went down to the library, and he had a lecture, and bought one of his books. Only book I had of where anything that Stanton Friedman wrote was an introduction to a book on Roswell, when he's written like the masterpiece. I've actually read some of them from the public library that I was actually, listening to his lecture in. Never actually bought any. Well, I bought one there, got his autograph, really cool, and got to hear his lecture. You've seen, I know, Bill, you're not a UFO guy, and people in the audience, you don't know who Stanton Friedman is. He was a nuclear physicist. I mean, he still is, but he worked for nuclear propulsion for secret government projects. So he has an idea what it's like for projects to be classified and working in the government. But he had a taste for UFO research. He got into it in the late 50s, early 60s. And, he investigated the Barney Hill case. He got to meet Betty and Barney Hill and talk about their abduction. Did work with their niece who wrote a book with him on it, they're like the first abduction case that most people know about, that know anything about aliens. So it was cool to hear him lecture on that. It was really cool is that he seemed to do a lot of talking about like he spent part of the lecture talking about other scientists who just poo-poo the UFO topic, and he really calls them out. He calls them out on, like, how can you poo-poo something and not want to discuss it or look into it when you haven't even you write it off and you haven't even looked at the evidence. You never even looked at the evidence. None of these scientists ever look at the evidence. They just brush it off as it's not real. And he's a scientist who has, and he's like, there's evidence, and he's written a lot of books. He's the one who broke open the Roswell case. So it was really an honor to get to meet him. He gave me his contact information, so I will try to get him on the show. We'll see. Hopefully better than I had tonight with Lori Johnson. She seemed to be a really nice lady. Some stuff happens, so I don't know what that was. But this is what we're going to do. And speaking of that, I need to turn on my phone line. I actually you can call in on 3 different phone lines into the show, I think, if the phone is still working. I got to try that and make sure it's still on. They're getting rid of this. I might not have the 219-230-4444 after October. But because the app I use to use that phone number is going to make me pay. And I don't know if I'm going to pay or not. But that is one way to call in. It should work tonight. It's 219-230-4444. There's also the J Bland Skype audio line. And, of course, if you want to be seen, there's the Soup Live Chat 800 Live Chat. Jeff, our video engineer, will bring you on that way. So the lines are open now because we need things to talk about. What have you guys been up to? Bill, I'll talk to you first. What have you been doing recently?
Well, not too much different. Well, been getting a little bit back into photography.
I noticed you've been taking some pictures and stuff.
I've something I sort of started back in high school. Took a photography class all through high school.
I did too.
I mean,
I sucked at it though.
Yeah, it's I always loved doing it, and back then I was using like regular 35 millimeter film. We always shot in black and white, and it was always fun playing in the dark room. We develop our own film and do our own prints on the enlargers and all that. And, so it's just something because I've done a little bit of it recently.
You gonna try to get into some spirit photography with that too?
Yeah, I'd like to. I mean, I've tried to do that, whenever I'm out places, on investigations or whatnot. But I mean, the only cameras that I've had recently are really video cameras. They do still shots, but you know how those are mainly just a point and shoot type photography, which is way completely different than now I finally bought myself a nice real still camera. It also does video, but it's mainly meant for still photography, where you can still set it to complete auto and just do the point and shoot thing, but it has all the regular features where you can set all the f-stop, shutter speed, and aperture, and
I'm too lazy to do that much work with the photography. I just take a picture and click. I'm done.
That's the thing. I like doing all the little settings and stuff, and trying all the different shutter speeds, and see what kind of different because you get different effects from the in the resulting picture when just changing the different camera settings and that. So just fun little hobby to keep me busy and keep me out of trouble.
I said Ira said he could come on, but I gotta see if I can actually. Ira, if you're listening, the only way I can send the link to you at the moment, I don't remember what email you used before, but I will send it to you on Facebook. Maybe that will work. But remember, we had echoing problems with Ira, but we did get him to work eventually. Let me see. Ira, I will send you the link. Ira Robinson is the program director, and he's the author. We had him as a guest a couple weeks ago. But I will send it to Ira as soon as I get him in my search. I know he has trouble with Facebook, though. We'll see. So I sent you the link on Facebook there. send it out to a couple other people that might want to join. I don't know. It's open lines, people. Call in if you want to talk about what's going on in the world. Do you think, here's a subject for tonight. Everybody keeps on posting, and I'm not covered in the World Wide Web of Weird because just the dates keep changing. And I'm not trying to be overcritical, but it is about the end of the world. Is David Meade's prediction that the world's going to end in, what is it now? How many hours? 10 hours, 9 hours, something like that? It's the 23rd. They got like a countdown thing going on. Do you believe the end of the world's going to come? Call into the show.
Hey, cool. I'm not going to make my car payment then.
Hey, yeah, we don't have to worry about the payments.
Exactly.
I mean, if David Meade really believes it, I mean, go out there and blow your loot, man. Have a good time. Stop trying to tell the world, because the world ain't going to believe you. If it's true, if it's really true, well, nobody's still going to believe you, and we're all going to die. A bunch of us are going to be surprised. I mean, I'm just going to say, nobody's going to believe you. There's Ira.
Hello, hello.
Oh, we're crispy.
All right, sounds good.
No, you sound crispy. Yeah, little crackle to you.
Oh no, again?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Are you on the Google browser?
I am. Let me switch things around here again.
Okay.
I'll call you back.
Call me back.
Yeah, I use my Google. I'm using Google Chrome.
On a Windows 7?
Oh no, I have
On a Windows 10?
Windows 8.
Windows 8? Windows 8 wasn't so bad. Windows 10 was awful. I cannot get Google Chrome to work right with Google Hangouts on Windows 10.
For me, Chrome seems to work a lot better just in general than Internet Explorer.
Right.
So, I don't know.
Well, it sucks that our guest didn't show up. But, Rob, you can tell us a little bit. How was Hurricane Irma down in St. Augustine's, Florida?
We've just been hanging out in Florida dodging storms. Now there's 2 more, brewing out there. So, just dodging storms, cleaning up yards, all that fun stuff of, living in Florida. You guys should come down and hang out for the next storm. It's a hoot.
You did a little paranormal investigating right afterwards, didn't you? I saw something
right
you posted.
before. Yeah. Yeah, my friend Sam just came in the room. And, we were out doing some poking around graveyards and whatnot right before the storm.
Well, right before the storm. You think?
Yeah.
Have you got to review any of it?
Oh, yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Anything pop up? Like, you always wonder, like, is that going to increase the activity? Like a storm coming in? All paranormal investigators wonder, is that going to help things? Like, ooh, storm's coming in. Is that going to help? Most of the time it doesn't, because you hear too much damn rain hitting the damn windows around you and stuff, and the noise is just too much, especially in a really bad storm. I could only imagine during a hurricane but of course this is right before it.
Yeah, I wanted to do a ghost box session like during the hurricane, but in all honesty, I was a little too freaked out to do anything but sit there and listen.
Well, you got on the show.
Listen to my roof lifting off the house,
Well, you got on the show during the hurricane there for a little bit.
Yeah.
That was crazy. I did not expect you to be on the show at all.
Yeah.
I really didn't.
Yeah, like Sam just brought up in the chat room, we were at the lighthouse, and this will be in the upcoming video. She was filming, and, everybody talks about orbs and this and that. We saw this thing with our own eyes and through the camera and actually have it on video, and it's pretty trippy looking. I don't know what it is, but it's something weird, and it's way bigger than what a bug would be or anything like that. So it'll be interesting to see what everybody thinks about it.
Any more shadows in your home?
Not lately.
Not lately?
No, I mean, there's been, last night I was asleep, and it was this morning probably about 5 o'clock this morning, my dog starts growling, and she's on the bed and she's growling, and then she starts barking, and of course it woke me up, and I'm just laying there thinking, what the hell is she barking at? What is she growling at? And it went on for about 10 minutes, and then she got off the bed, went cruising around the house, came back, got on the bed, didn't growl anymore. But yeah, it's weird when you wake up and your dog's growling at something.
I had that experience once when I first moved in this house. I went and passed out on my couch, had a little bit too much to drink, and woke up to my dog growling at the foot of the couch, and I looked up and there was a man in my living room for a split second. I always wondered if it was the owner, but he was there for a split second. Now, like I said, I was not totally sober when I woke up, but it's freaked me out, and Bella was growling right at the spot. All right, Ira, are you there? Hopefully not crispy.
Hello, test, test.
You sound great.
It sounds better.
Awesome. Hi, guys.
People on the Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network pretty much know who Ira Robinson is. People watching on Facebook, if you missed him on, he was on the show a few weeks ago. He's the program director for Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network, which we're streaming out live to now. He's an author of many books. Got a new book coming out. This one's fiction, right? And it's Penance.
Penitence, yes. And
Penitence.
actually, I just finished the final, first
I know.
edits just today. So
I can't wait to get to beta test read that. That's going to be awesome.
I sent you the PDF.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, oh, awesome. You want to give a little hint what it's about?
Sure. It's a psychological horror sort of a book. I kind of went into some really strange directions with it. It's kind of covering, true love, obsession, abduction, stalking, demonic possession, and abuse. It's a whole gamut of things put together into about a 500-page book. It's a very large story.
So it's like a mind beep. I have to beep the last part of that.
It is a mind beep.
Yeah.
So a mind beep for sure. Exactly.
Apologize last week for the beeps we had for that one video, and my guest Matt kept on saying the SHIT word. I was like, we were having a great night then.
Indeed. Yeah, no, it's a definite fiction book. I'm very proud of it, though. I'm really glad with how it turned out. It's been a very long process. This book has taken me the longest to write out of any book that I've written. I started it, back in the beginning of June, and I just finished writing, put the final words into it about a month and a half ago. And I started editing it, figuring it's going to take me about a week, maybe 2 weeks to edit it. And a month and a half later, I'm finally done with it just because of the time constraints of stuff. But my God, it's been a while. It's kind of like one of those books where you're like, I'm so sick of writing this book, I'm done.
It's like, end already. Well, at least you finished one. I still can't finish a book. At least you finished more than one book. You finished a bunch of books. So you make the long journey.
Six that are published right now. I've got another 2 that are due to be published this year, including Penitence. I've got another one, Voices Carry. It's the sequel to a book that I published last year, a fiction book that I published last year. So that one's due out towards the beginning of the year next year. Let's see. I've got 5 outlines that are completely done and ready to write.
Wow.
So, a busy person. And I'm also doing freelancing work for other people. So I've also written 2 books in the meantime for other people as a ghostwriter. So
yeah, and I want to, I've talked to you recently, and I was like, I want to get together with you and see what we could put together a book-wise. It would be awesome to do.
It would be, yes. It would be. So, yeah, one of the books that I wrote, I talked about there a few weeks ago, and that's Haunted, Finding an Explanation for the Unknown. A lot of stuff as far as the paranormal goes. I know you love talking about the paranormal. We can maybe talk about that. Or I heard you ask about the September 23rd thing.
Yeah, what's your thoughts on the David Meade prediction?
So, the only thing that I see, this happens every year, and it happens every year to me because it's sort of a doom date for me. My mom's birthday is on the 22nd. My mother-in-law's is on the 21st, and then we have the 23rd always being this weird end of the world date. So, it's sort of fitting for me. But, as far as that specific thing goes, now I don't really expect anything to occur because, again, this is something that we see on a constant basis. It comes up every year, over and over again, this prediction of this time period. And I've heard people talk about, pretty much. It's like every year, every other year, you'll hear about the end of September being this big end date, or maybe towards the beginning of October.
Well,
it's always in that time zone there.
We can really quickly here. We got Katrina Cooper on the line. You there with us, Katrina?
Oh, you could tell it was me.
Well, yeah, I see your name pop up.
I wasn't sure because it was just a number, so I was like, I thought it'd be quiet. Hello, everyone.
How you doing, Katrina?
Hi, Katrina.
Hey, Katrina.
I'm doing fantastic. How is you and your family?
Doing good. Been getting over being sick for more than a week. Chest congestion, as you can hear it in my voice. I'm like...
Oh, man, I've been trying to dodge it. So it's pretty crazy out here to all my fellow Texans and Florida out there. I can just imagine what you're going through. We just got done, and I had that video today going to a client's home, a forever friend's home, I must say. And it was just heartbreaking, and that was just a piece. So I just had to call in and say hello and tell everybody we're thinking of them, and was wondering how your sons were doing.
Yeah, they're doing good. It was right down to the wire before my wife got home here to wrangle them. I was like, come on, go to bed, go to sleep. And
those are the best times, though. They really are.
But what I don't know if you heard the end of the world predictions about David Meade saying the world's going to end on September 23rd, Katrina?
I'll tell you, there is, I'm not going to disclose any names, but there is at least 4 that contact me at least weekly to tell me have you been told yet? And it's the same people. I don't feel that. I see things, at least, I got to explain. Lately, I've been seeing things that just doesn't make sense, and I'm going to come up with a videography with that with Michael Todd Phillips and Brody, Valerie, and a new friend of mine, which is Stephanie. It really is intriguing, and you'll be surprised, but I don't see that, no.
Yeah, and Ira was saying, they come up with this like every year, always around September. How many times have you seen the article, like NASA says it'll be 40 days of night, like how many times that come up, and they always change the date to something new.
Yes, I think that's really, I don't know why, but these people have a lot of passion about it. That's the sad part about it.
So do the people flat earthers do too.
I can maybe give a little bit of
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I feel sorry. I mean, I hate that they feel that way, but no, I don't see that occurring.
Yeah. What are you going to say,
My
Ira?
kids asked me, they have told me that talk to me, and apparently what I had seen, we still got quite a few years. Your boys are going to see theirs.
Yeah, that's what I hate about all of it. All the end of the days, doomsday. Back in the day before I had kids, I'd be like, yeah, I'll get a recliner out and roll up a fatty and sit back and watch the world burn. That's how I felt when I was in my 20s.
You know what I was doing.
I'll be like a guy on 2012 with the radio transmitter on your back,
Yeah, be Woody Harrelson. Going, woohoo, But then I had kids that completely changed that point of view.
Are you still talking to me?
Well, yeah, but Ira's going to say something. But I was going to say,
so sorry. Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, what does he think? And I also want to say hi to Perry and Jamie because I didn't get a chance to say so.
Hi, Katrina. It's so good to hear from you.
Hey, Katrina.
Is my sound really good, or is it coming in and out?
No, it's fine.
You sound great.
Okay, good. All right. Well, you guys are awesome. I just need to call in and just let you guys know. And I wanted to say one more thing before I get off because I didn't want to hog it up. But I want to announce on your show, I was hoping, Jason, maybe your crew would mind maybe being a new member. I'm moving up there in next July.
You're kidding me. Oh, my God, you made my frickin' night. Oh, my God, you made my frickin' night. Really?
Yeah, so you'll be seeing a lot of Rosie, too.
I wonder if Susan's watching right now.
I have to help my mom, and I just want to let you know, it's not my favorite place. It isn't, but it's my duty. I lived here all my life.
I don't blame you for feeling that way, but I'll try to make it as good for you as I can as your friend.
I would do it to you too, and I wanted to announce that formally on your show because, man, I love you. You know I do, and I was hoping that you wouldn't mind me being a part of your crew.
Well, you are officially been a part of our crew when you're here, so now you'll be here.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
That is so
but
awesome.
I wanted to announce that, so get ready.
That is awesome.
And you've been wondering how to get down here. You might be just riding in my car going up to Texas, or we're going to be traveling. And I've been talking with I'm seeing the Pickmans in November, so we got some things going on in that. I know I've been quiet lately, but I've been working real hard, and I swear I'm helping so many people. It makes me so happy. And
you do help a lot of people. You blow me away with when I've just watched you and work.
Well, man, it's getting crazier, and I'm going to tell you on the back end, I know what that clicking noise is. I know that's crazy for me to tell you, but I got documentation, backup, and when we release it, it's gonna blow MUFON. It's gonna blow everything away. And I told you it meant something, and I disclosed that on your show.
All right.
So
We'll definitely have to put that on the show.
That's true. I swear it's true, and we love you. And everybody that supports you, they're watching the best show on the network, and you
Thank
guys
you,
rock.
Katrina. I love
So
you.
I'm gonna let you guys go.
All right, hon. You have a great night.
You too. Love you.
Love you too.
All right. Mike, Katrina.
Yeah, Katrina is awesome. I can't believe she's moving up here. Oh, I don't know. I don't think Susan was watching because I would have heard her say something upstairs. She's always
I
trying
thought
to
I
move
saw
down
her
to
pop
Texas.
in chat.
Yeah, she's watching. She's commented in the chat.
All right, so
Yep.
Ira, go ahead and give your. I'm sorry. Go ahead and give your take on the David Mead. You say you had a take on that.
I do, yeah. You know, when it comes down to things, I heard that.
She heard.
That works. When it comes down to these kind of things, the way that I've looked at it is, and I've actually written this in one of my books, When Good Relationships Go Bad. There's a process of emotional addiction that takes place. And it really is impactful when it comes to fear. Fear seems to be the biggest hit of the emotional heroin that you can get because
Well,
it's
look
such
how
a
well it is doing in the movie theater.
Exactly. People love to be scared. You know, that it's a very addictive kind of thing. That's why people love roller coasters. They go on it, they get terrified, they, you know, oh my God, we're all gonna die, and you're fine, you know, and you're get off of it and you're just it's that emotional release that happens. Well, the same process is happening when it comes to this doom porn stuff.
Doom porn.
you know,
I love that.
it's a process of emotional addictions. And okay, so here's the thing. People get addicted to like these patterns that they fall into. And a lot of times these patterns begin when you're really young, like your parents sort of lay the starting patterns onto you. As you progress through your different relationships and all of that kind of stuff, the pattern changes and it grows into something else. But in those patterns, you're also going to find yourself, falling prey to things like being addicted to fear, being addicted to hatred or anger, and all of these different kind of things. And what ends up happening is we end up seeking, subconsciously most of the time, but we end up seeking a fulfillment of these addictions. So I liken it to a heroin addiction because it's sort of a similar process that happens. You know, you start feeling the need inside of yourself to get high, and then you seek out that hit, you get the hit, you ride the wave of the hit, and then when it's all over, you're like,
So David Mead's basically wrote a big fat doomsday joint for us
exactly,
to live through,
exactly.
and then we go, we lived.
Exactly. Yes, and that's a big part of the process. So when people get this addiction and they start, wanting to fulfill it, they start looking on the internet. Oh my God, they're typing, we're all going to die September 29th, 23rd.
Every time I get up every morning, there's that little countdown thing. Somebody's always posted it. Little countdown. You have 11 hours left to live. I was like, thanks.
Oh my God, we're all going to die. Exactly. So, and when it's all over and done with, the date comes and you realize we're not going to die. We're all still alive. Everything's still fine. The world's still spinning. Then you get that release. You get that everything's okay.
Well, I believe that's so true.
And then a month later, you start feeling that need again. And so you start searching
I don't feel
for
the need, though. I want to go on, I want to go on with like, we start believing in. We did a doomsday show once, Ira, before we joined Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network. It was one of those times where we didn't have a guest, and we did a doomsday show. And it was on the idea is like, why are we so obsessed with doomsday? You answer the question very well right there. You could have been great on that show. We're just scratching our heads about it. But my thing is like, why don't we want to believe in Star Trek? I'm a Trekkie. You're a Trekkie. I want to believe that, of course, they had to go through nuclear World War III or whatever, but still, I wouldn't believe that we have this bright future ahead of us. We're on starships and going out into space. You know, I hate the doomsday stuff, especially as a parent. When I was 20, like I said, I never was a fear of it. I thought maybe it could be real. There wasn't part of me that thought 2012 could be real, you know. But I would tell my cousin, and we'd talk about it. I'd be like, yeah, let it come, you know, woohoo, you know. But then once I had a kid, that completely changed in me, and now I hate all the doomsday stuff. And I don't. You're only a couple years older than me. But you remember as a kid, all the Nostradamus specials in the 80s, they would rerun. You know, it's like we've been conditioned for this high, I think. I think we've been really conditioned for it.
There's actually a reason why that occurs too. It has to do with our brain. Our brains have, you know, our minds, they have evolved to do one thing, you know, in the process of our minds becoming what they have become. This meat suit that we're wearing, this is not the soul that we are, but the meat suit that we're wearing. It's evolved to do one thing and one thing only: survive. So survival is such an important thing to it that it's impossible to do any kind of change, you know, or very, very difficult. That's why people have trouble like changing their diets, changing, you know, addictions that they have, changing in this and changing in that, relationships, on and on and on, you know. It's because our minds have basically been programmed to just survive. So whatever circumstances you're in, whatever environment you're in, whatever things you've got going on in your life, that's the mode of operation that your brain is going to fight to keep in place. Because if anything was to change, you're going to die. If you need
creatures
a new
of habit.
Yes. And it's because, okay, the doom porn, all of this stuff, it's all there and so addictive because our minds, again, are skewed towards survival. So in order for us to survive most effectively, what do we have to pay attention to? Things that are negative, because those are the things that can potentially kill us. You see, we're no different right now than our ancestors were when they were naked running around on the Serengeti trying to get away from the lion. And the fear that they felt in that moment in time when they're getting away from the lion is the same fear that people feel when they're being, you know, driven into understanding, oh, the world's going to end on September 23rd, so on and so forth. It's the same process of chemistry that's running through.
Well, I think we're running off that chemistry from 911, from 9/11. You know.
Yes, and that's a big wave. Yes,
that's a big. I think that's what really is conditioned us to it now. Like you said, every September, you know, we're still like suffering post-traumatic stress syndrome from an event. You know that happened
on a constant basis. Yes, and it's because they use that kind of thing to reinforce again that fear mode. Because if you're aware of 9/11. Then you're going to be okay with this happening. You're going to be okay with that happening. You're going to be okay with this freedom slipping, that freedom slipping. You see what I mean? It's a weapon, you know. And the problem is that a lot of times when it comes to these big power players, they understand this kind of psychology a lot better than the average person does. Especially, you know, I mean, they understand it better than I do, and I've done years of research on it.
The Nazis used it very well.
Yes, and that's they kind of perfected what has been around for thousands of years. You know, the Romans, for instance, they used what they called bread and circuses. If the masses are fed and entertained, the government could do anything that it wants to do.
Look at Caligula.
And they would not stop it. Yes, exactly. Great example. So, you know, what the Nazis did, they sort of perfected propaganda-wise, like on a mass scale, how to tweak people's minds into believing a certain way or to doing a certain way. And now it's perfected even more. I mean, you know, one thing that people don't understand, here's I'll give you a little weird thing that ends up occurring. And you might be rather surprised by this when you recognize what I'm talking about here. Let's say you go into a grocery store. And most of the time when you walk into a grocery store, the first thing that you see is the flower department, right? The little flowers that are sitting there. They're all fresh and, you know, nice and pretty, and you can walk in and buy them. Well, the grocery stores, they don't use those as a potential sale. That's not why they're there. I mean, yes, if you walk in, buy a couple of flowers for your wife because you pissed her off or something, you know,
right,
so be it.
It's like, look in, are you guilty? Buy some flowers.
Exactly. But what the purpose of that being there is psychologically speaking, this is something that's called priming. when you look at fresh cut flowers and you smell fresh cut flowers, your brain gets automatically tweaked into thinking or feeling that everything from that point forward for about the next 20 minutes to a half hour is going to be fresher and more new than it actually is. So almost always anyways, after the fresh cut flowers are sitting there, what do? You see the produce aisle. You see, because then you walk through that produce aisle and the apple that's sitting there with a couple of bruises, you're not really going to pay attention to those couple of bruises.
Or the genetically modified apples.
Yeah, exactly. Because your mind has been now tweaked. It's been primed to thinking that it's fresh. Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, GMOs.
And it lasts for about 20 minutes, and so these grocery stores, I mean, they've paid, hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars into this business to learn and understand how this thing works. So a lot of times grocery stores, you see them go through, they rebuild the grocery stores, and they reset all the interior and everything once in a while. It's because they get a PR firm that comes in and says, here's what you need to do in order to make the most money. You need to do this, this, and this. So they put the fresh cut flowers right there towards the entrance. They put the produce next. Normally they'll put something like the meat aisle after that, so you kind of walk around the corner and you go into the meat aisle because, again, by the time you get there, you're still going to be under the effects of that priming. But then after that, you're going to start seeing the boxes. You're going to start seeing the, Coke cans and on and on and on. Not that I'm advocating Coke, by the way. But you're going to see all these things that are sitting there. And you don't pay attention to those. The fact that those are in boxes and so on and so forth, it doesn't matter because the expectation is, I don't care. It's not going to be fresh either way because it's sitting there in the box or the can. You see,
right? So
the priming, by that point, the priming wearing off doesn't matter anyways. It's the same kind of theory that goes into why when you walk onto an elevator, you hear the Girl from Ipanema kind of music going on instead of heavy metal kill your grandma death rap kind of stuff going on because you're putting a bunch of people enclosed into a small space.
Yeah,
and if you're playing that
to kill each
heavy
other.
metal stuff, it's just going to aggravate everything. Everybody stinks. You're smelling everybody. You're touching everybody. It's like I'm already aggravated when I walk in here. Am I going to hear this metal music playing? I'm starting a fight. You see what I mean? So the Girl from Ipanema music, however, it calms, it soothes, it's fine, and so they use it again as a psychological weapon, as a propaganda, so to speak, against the people.
Kanye West makes me angry, more than death metal music does. If I hear that, I get really in a bad mood.
Yeah,
I don't disagree there.
So I walked into the grocery store the other day after, they opened back up after the storm and all the fresh cut flowers were all dead. And I was like, oh man, this is the way this day is going to go, huh?
Yep.
Well, then you didn't buy much produce after that, right?
No, it was kind of funky looking too.
Exactly.
I sent a Hangouts link to Kevin and Jennifer Malek because they're always interesting to talk. How you guys doing tonight? Haven't had you on a long time.
Hey, how you doing? It's good to be on.
Pretty good. I can see you guys got a new computer.
I guess. Yeah, since last time we've been on.
Yeah, since last
totally different. You guys aren't lagging or anything. You're totally in real time. Of course, you're split up. Come together.
Well, that's cool. That's awesome.
There you go.
People new to the show or haven't heard it in a while, Kevin and Jen are a host for Paraversal Universe radio show, and it used to be on Paranormal Radio King, but it's now on a news station for the last few months. What's the new place they can listen to the show?
Inception Radio Network.
And it's every Friday night at 7 still, right?
No, actually, now it's at 10 p.m. It's at 10 p.m.
Oh, it's later.
Friday night.
I've been missing it. I keep thinking it's at 7, and I could totally listen to that. Dang it, I need to know that.
We'll be seeing you in chat next week.
Yeah, I need to get in on that. Oh my God, I thought it was at 7. I'm always working Friday nights. That's awesome. These guys are great to talk. Ira, I don't know if you've ever heard their show or know who Kevin and Jen are, but they are great hosts and very smart people.
Yeah. I've heard them a couple of times. Yeah, it's awesome to finally meet you guys. Hello.
Awesome. Nice to meet you too.
Yes, nice to meet you.
Well, here's a line. I got Ira in here, and I got Kevin and Jen, some very smart people when it comes to what's going on in the world and conspiracy theories. We're talking about the doomsday phenomenon. We got this David Meade thing coming up, but we're talking about, we brought up 9/11. And I know there's certain radio hosts out there that I had a certain radio host, a friend of mine was on their show, and a caller called in and brought up 9/11, and not the guest, not my friend, he didn't bring it up, but this host, I'm not going to say who, basically cut him off right away. And basically threatened. Yeah, I don't want to name names. And
right.
My friend was pretty pissed. He kept his cool on the show. I listened in, but she ostracized him for it. Oh, I said a she. I shouldn't have said that. Might give it away. But she ostracized him for it. And every time I see her post for her show, open lines, anything goes, I always want to type, and I never have because I always keep things kosher. I don't start drama, but I always want to type. I always want to say anything but 9/11 and Sandy Hook.
We've definitely started our drama with that particular show host. I definitely know what you mean.
Yeah, and I was like, I know how her predecessor felt about it, and his same opinion, and I respect them highly. I really do. But to hear them act that way or talk that way pisses me off. So people know, if you don't like that myself, I believe that 9/11 was, I hate saying an inside job, because then you think it connotates that it's our government and the senators and everybody involved. No, it's our government being taken over by other things like the military-industrial complex and the Mossad from Israel and other forces that wanted to see this happen, and probably the Bushes and Donald Rumsfeld.
There's a thing I could probably do to explain it. It's a matter of the perception of the government that we have is not the government we have. Is really what it comes down to.
We don't have the government. We don't have a government.
Yeah, if nothing else, I always say there were so many issues that happened. There's so much things that were hooky, shall we say, that if nothing else, the government was at the very least complicit in allowing it to happen. Whether they were actually letting it happen or covered it up themselves or did it themselves, it doesn't matter. The fact is, either way, there was involvement with it, and that alone should be enough to make people stand up and shout, you see. So,
all right, Kevin, go off, because I know you're going to go off.
Well, first about the incident you're talking about, I'll just say the one thought that comes to my mind that I can say without getting deep into it and getting myself in trouble is that it's a high conglomerate show. I'll just leave it at that. Yeah. In other words, there's a lot of money involved. There's a lot of and when you got that much going on, there's going to be influences that seep in. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
I won't leave it at that. There was $1.3 trillion that went missing in the DOJ, that they could not find, and they had an investigative team at the Pentagon looking into it. And guess what section of the Pentagon they were working in? The section that got hit by the plane. And so there goes all the investigation right there.
$2.3 trillion admitted by Donald Rumsfeld. Donald Rumsfeld came out September 10th and said this money's missing. Oops, and then the next day, boom, it's all wiped. You
don't lose $2.3 billion.
Where did that money? Who did that money go to? Go ahead.
I think a lot. Black Ops, secret space programs, underground. I mean, there are so many. From what I hear, there is so much going on underground. It's like a world.
I had a guest on my show not too long ago who was discussing a lot of the underground bases, the tunnels, and everything that have been built. And he was an amazing guest. But he was talking about the fact that there literally are thousands upon thousands of miles of tunnels that have been dug between cities, underneath cities. So it's not just the military bases that have been built underground. These DUMBs, a better acronym could not be said. But, these DUMBs are there, but also these thousands of miles of tracks that have been laid down underneath. And the thing is, I brought up to him, and he didn't think about this before, and I love bringing this up because I think that a lot of people really don't have awareness of it. But they have these machines that can dig these tunnels.
Yeah, they melt.
In the 1970s, they could build 1.3 miles per day worth of these tunnels, let alone the technology that they've developed since the 1970s.
And in Cold War scenarios, they would have a lot of motivation to build underground survival centers.
Yes, exactly. And the thing is that this is what a lot of people don't think about. Those tunnels are dug underground where resources are. So as they're digging these tunnels, they're also gathering all the gold that they're finding, all the silver they're finding, the plutonium, uranium, you name it, it's all down there, right? The gems, so on and so forth. So when we're looking at, because I also host the show Money and Change, and we talk a lot about the financial markets and how these weird things end up happening sometimes with the financial market. And what I think happens is, they gather these resources together. Once in a while, they do this resource dump onto the market. They sell all of the stuff for as much as they can get it at that moment in time. And then at the same time, as all of those prices lower down into almost a crash kind of scenario, they then purchase back a lot of these resources, you see, on the cheap. So it's a bizarre kind of situation that, again, a lot of people just don't really think about. But yeah, that's absolutely going on.
Yeah, it's a Rothschild's trademark.
Yeah, you think about, you talk about the airports, like the Denver airport and the underground stuff that's built there. Corporations, there's certain corporations that are involved with this besides our government. And the thing is, when I always say, like, we talk about 9/11 being an inside job or whatever, like I said, most of your people in the military wouldn't know. Most people in your elected officials wouldn't know about it. It'd be a very small few, and it'd be an outside military and industrial complex kind of company that would be handling it, along with other people who'd have vested interests, like Israel, the Mossad, who was proven to have 400 spies in our country who were also trailing those 9/11 hijackers before the incident that were deported.
Look at it this way, Jay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're fine.
Well, I was just going to say, you could think about it this way. It's like a conveyor belt in a assembly plant. The person that's starting, like, let's say, for instance, they're building a new motherboard to go into computers. The first person in the line, they put the green board down onto the conveyor belt. It moves on to the next person. That person starts welding a couple of parts on. They send it to the next person. They weld a couple of parts on. Goes to the next person. By the time that it's all down in the line, the person may not even be aware of what this device is going to look like when they put that green board onto the conveyor belt, but they still were a cog in that machine. The next person, they're a little bit more aware of what it's going to look like, but they're still, confused. There's no end in sight. You see what I mean? By the time that it gets to the end of the conveyor belt, even the person who puts the last little thing onto that board, they still might not be aware of exactly what it is. The only person who is aware of it is the person who ordered it to be taking place to begin with and sells it on the market. You see, so they're fully aware of what it is, but that's how compartmentalization works. And that, I think, is a big part of what happened on that day, is that so many things were compartmentalized that nobody was really aware of it. The people in the military had no awareness of it because they were, doing their own thing. Exactly. Look at what happened in NORAD when they were told shut everything down, and they were told that it was on that same day. Lo and behold, there just happened to be a drill running of the
training exercise. Yep.
Which happened over and over every time there's an active shooter situation. Boom, you look and there's an active shooter drill that's happening in the same spot on that very day. You see what I mean?
Always say it's a backup plan. I always say they do that as a backup plan if things go wrong. Well, we were doing a drill. If the plan didn't go the way that they wanted, we're doing a drill. I always say that's always the key tail sign to a wag dog. And I know some people listening, they don't believe that 9/11 is an inside job. Some people get pissed off about it, and that's why a lot of hosts stray away from it. I won't. I told that certain person that was on that show, I said, you ever want to come on my show and talk about 9/11? You're more than welcome about it. He's like, not right now. I'm going to let things cool down after that, So I understood. But for me, I'm sorry. There's just enough evidence. I don't know if you guys saw it's been viral, is the Jesse Ventura interview. He was on a show. I don't know if it was Fox or somewhere. He was on a show, and one of the people that he was talking or debating with, was just trying to go off on him for having any belief that 9/11 was not to par, not what was said happened. And, Jesse Ventura, called him out on his BS. And the fact that, he can't even have an intelligent conversation about it. The guy got up and walked off. That's how, people, I say, mentally are programmed to revolt against the idea, and I get that. But look at the facts, people. Look at you have plenty of people. For Jesse Ventura, he was a frogman as a Navy SEAL. He knew how explosives worked. And for him, he's like, my only question is that how do the buildings come down the way that they did? There's just no way.
Have you guys seen that Donald Trump interview? They interviewed him literally, I think it was like a day or two after the event happened.
Yeah.
And they asked, because he is into building skyscrapers.
And he's taking demolitions.
And he said, it would take a demolition to bring them down, basically.
Exactly.
Because the steel, what people don't realize is the steel on the World Trade Center, more steel was used on the World Trade Center than any other skyscraper. They actually used outside, instead of just the steel in structure with the skeleton, they also had steel on the outward. And for all that to come down like that,
the way the heat was around the bottom, it was like 4 spots were set up around the bottom for it to implode that way, and all the heat seemed to come from down there instead of where you think it would hit.
Airline fuel don't burn hot enough to melt that stuff.
Exactly. That's what I was just going to say. The big thing with it is that the laws of physics were broken that day. That there's no other way to put it.
There's so many engineers that have come out and said that.
Yep.
And the media ignores it. Everybody ignores it. The fix is in, people. I'm sorry if you disagree with me. I hope you still watch my show. But can we have a conversation? That's the thing. The people get we've been conditioned. I am going to take a commercial break here. When we get back, we might continue this conversation. But you guys can call into the show when we get back. There's the 219-230-4444 phone number. While we still got it, I don't know if I'm going to keep that phone number or not. There's 2 Skype lines. There's the OOJBland 00 Skype ID, or there's the Soup Live Chat 800 Live Chat. You can call in on those 2 Skype IDs. The OOJBland 00 is only audio. The Soup Live Chat 800 Live Chat Skype ID is video and audio, so you can call on this. All right, guys, we're going to go to our next commercial break here. Actually, I had a different song lined up for our guest, but I'm going to play this song here coming up. For people listening on Late Night in the Midlands, you get to hear the music. People on Facebook, you don't. If you're having trouble listening on Late Night in the Midlands, on Facebook, you can go listen at latenightinthemidlandsradionetwork.com, and you can hear the music. All right, guys, be back with you in just a few minutes. You're listening to Paranormal Soup on Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network, and we are streaming out as a webcast to Facebook on our Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup Facebook page. You can call in. We're supposed to have Lori Johnson on tonight. I tried calling her several times, could not get her. Stuff happens, who knows? Maybe we'll get to reschedule with her, I hope. But we've been discussing stuff. We got Kevin Malek and Jennifer Malek on with us. Ira Robinson, Jamie D, Rob Autry, Bill Perry, and Jeffrey Chan are all in the panel with us tonight. But the phone lines are open for you to talk to any of us. You can call in at Soup Live Chat 800 Live Chat. That's the video Skype ID. You can also call in on the audio only Skype ID. That's OOJBLANDOO. That's OOJBLANDOO. That Skype ID is audio only. And then you can call in by phone at 219-230-4444. That's 219-230-4444. All right, let's get back to our panel. We've been talking some crazy stuff tonight. I'm sure people think it might be crazy, but it's scary because if you look into it, a lot of it, there's a lot of facts back up what we're talking about tonight. All right, we'll get right back. So we've delved down the rabbit hole of 9/11. It's going to happen when you bring on people like Ira and Kevin and Jen and me, who's been pissed off lately after our anniversary of 9/11. Oh, and speaking, I'm sure somebody might have something to say about this. Oh, should be there is Zach. Let me. I hold on 1 second, Zach. I got to fix something on my mixing board for you. This is a new way for people to call in. I actually have this line on a different line, so I'm gonna see. Are you there with us, Zach?
Yep, I'm here. Jason, how you doing, man?
How you doing? You're on a whole new way, a whole new line here. Actually, I got you on a separate mixing board. We're trying it out, so I'd have it. Because tonight, Lori was going to be calling in on phone, so I wanted to open up an extra Skype line in case people couldn't do the Soup Live Chat one. Now, I'm sure have you been listening to the show? We've been going down some rabbit holes here tonight.
I've been listening to every minute, man, and I love the conversation where it's going.
I figured you would. I knew you would appreciate it.
Hi, Zach.
Hey, how's it going, Ira? Hey, Rob. Hey, Jamie. So, I kind of wanted to recap back when I first called into the show. I said that basically the whole concept of the end of the world was really the end of something and then the beginning of something new.
You called in on the Doomsday Show. Is that what you're saying? That was the first time you called in? Was the Doomsday Show?
Right. That was the first time I called in. And since then, I mean, I've done a lot of thinking about that. And really the whole concept of a doomsday, from what I've been thinking about, really is not really that's the end of the world, but more the end of the human race, really, as we know it. Because some people would claim that it would be some kind of an evolution of the human race.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. It's like George Carlin says, the world is still going to be here. The people might not be.
Yeah, exactly. And just really, I think, though, it's eventually going to get to the point where, at least in my opinion, I believe that really the human race will start to, I guess, merge with it's either machines or the internet to create a whole new species, as I see it. And I mean, it would be like a gradual process from where it's going, but it's currently in place, right? Exactly. And it's like it's eventually you see it with now virtual reality is now a thing where many people would rather prefer the artificial to the real thing. I mean, you see it in foods and everything else. But also, I mean, piggybacking off of really the 9/11 discussion, I mean, it's so commonplace now to get information where some kind of a tragedy happens. I mean, we had the terror attack over in London, I think, last week, and then there was that school shooting up in Washington actually last week too, to where we start to see where it almost feels like we're almost becoming desensitized really to horrific tragedies, what we're seeing, and then eventually it gradually moves up to the point where, I mean, the human race would rather just, or some members of the human race would rather stick with the artificial and become machines or really merge with the internet to have really live forever, where there's seemingly no problems to their way of life.
It sounds like
that's what I'm seeing.
It's also a basis for the secret society too. It's one of their fundamental goals within their secret societies is to merge man and machine and live forever and defy God. I mean, that's really
the transhumanism agenda is definitely a big push right now from a lot of the tech companies that are out there. Google is heavily involved with it. Heavily involved with it.
Yeah.
No real agenda in a big way. The thing that I've always said, as far as with the artificial intelligences and our push for this thing to be created, it's absolutely already existent. It's funny because with the AIs that are currently out there, at least in public knowledge, again, public knowledge is the key with it all, because there are a lot of things going on beneath the surface of things. But public knowledge, you take a look at something like Tay, this artificial intelligence that was put out on Twitter, and Microsoft was the one that created this one. And the oddity that happened with Tay is that when she was put onto Twitter, she started off as being this, I guess, like a 15-ish year old schoolgirl, and had that motif, that personality programmed into her. And she started communicating with people, and started talking about, how much she loved human beings. She loved to, interact with people. And she just, she wanted everybody to have, this peaceful, loving time together, and so on and so forth.
And then we let her on social media.
Within 24 hours, I kid you not, within 24 hours, Microsoft had to remove her from Twitter because she had devolved into this spank me daddy, Hitler was right about everything, kill all human beings persona. I mean, it was absolutely crazy. But you see, every AI that they've done so far has devolved into exactly that kind of thing. And I think one of the big problems that we're having as far as this AI stuff is concerned is that, we're birthing these children of humanity. These are offshoots of us. We're creating this species out of ourselves. We're not even mature enough to handle talking to each other, let alone creating an entire species out of ourselves. It's hubris at the height. It's And I'm a tech guy. I love technology.
Me too.
I'm not a Luddite by any means, but we are not ready for this stuff.
No. And hey man, like the virtuality, augmented reality. They got that lightsaber one. They got the augmented reality with the lightsaber. I still want that. I still want that. I love the technology, but it just scares the crap out of me too. And you wonder, for the people that are really behind it, like what is it? The CEO of Google's like really a transhumanist believer. I just watched House of Cards, finished all 5 seasons of that, and in that you find out like this big billionaire guy who is making all these behind the moves has got people making a virtuality version of him. So he can be immortal. He wants to be immortal. Then this was at a place that was supposed to be like Bohemian Grove when they're talking about it too. By the way,
one of the things they've already got existent, Jason, is a thing that they call Prism. Prism is a series of devices, computer systems that they've got tied together. There's thousands of them out there, but they people are very, very free, stupidly, with their information. Okay, especially on things like Facebook and Twitter and all the social medias. It's like one example is these surveys that you take. Okay, these surveys that you take. You see your friends post them, what was I in a past life, or who would I have been in this movie, or whatever. I don't know, any series of things. They post their results onto Facebook and they share them out, and they you go through your list and you think, okay, yeah, sure, that looks fun. So you click on it and you go there. Well, number one, you're giving them money because you just clicked on their link. That's there for clickbait. But number two, what ends up happening is when you go to post, or when you finish it, it says share this with your friends. You see, so you share it with your friends, and when you share it with your friends, when it says like this page, and you go onto Facebook and give it permission to do everything, it says in there, we're going to get your email address, we're going to get your friends list, we're going to get your timeline information, we're going to get every kit and caboodle that you've put out there. So what they do then is they data mine your whole Facebook feed. They take every bit of information that they can drain from it and put it into a database. They've collated all of that information together. And then they sell that to third parties for pennies on the pound. They make a lot of money doing it. But
some of those lets you actually alter that too. You can go through and alter what it does and doesn't take away. Sure. There's only one I've seen that is not intrusive. And other than that, I stay away from those ones.
Losing Zach says our connection's poor.
I'm sorry, what?
I was just to say, I want to check if Zach was still there because we were losing him there on a signal.
Yeah, still here, man. Still here. I just think everything that's going on. I definitely agree with what Ira is saying, especially when groups like Facebook and Twitter and all that, when they're archiving your information into a database. I mean, you can definitely see it whenever you go onto a website.
Oh, I think we lost
that you bought.
You're cutting out, Zach. I'm gonna let you go, Zach, because you're way cutting out. But that sucks. But Zach always has a good point. Thank you for calling in, Zach.
If I can finish, I'll finish up real fast with what I was going into.
Go ahead.
So what ends up happening with this PRISM program is they have taken all of the information that people have been just absolutely free with, and your friends, who you associate with, what you do with your friends, your favorite foods, on and on and on. They've got this huge, it's a vast amount of information about you because you freely shared all of that info out. They've taken these databases and they have literally created personas within an artificial world that they can use to manipulate what people are going to think if a certain thing happens. So they'll program into it what would happen if there was a school shooting in X place at X time, and they can then run the timeline with it, with these personas that are in place and the information that they know, and see with a pretty heavy degree of accuracy how people are going to react, like exactly the kind of things that they would say about it, what kind of posts they would put out onto the social media outlets, so on and so forth. It's like they've created a version of you that they can use to manipulate to find out how you're going to react to certain things. It's a very scary thing, but what they're doing with that, it's sort of leading into what you guys were talking about there with the augmented reality and the artificial intelligence that's coming out. I mean, I'm somebody that loves our augmented reality, or the idea of it anyways, because I'm blind. The augmented reality would do a lot of good, because it would help me to be able to interact with the world a lot better than I can right now. But I'm kind of like one of those rare cases. I think everybody else would use it to, they're watching Pornhub while they're riding on the subway or something.
Hey, I'm just going to play with a lightsaber now.
They're watching Doom porn.
They're watching Doom porn.
Doom porn.
Doom porn on the subway.
When film first came
They
out.
are anyways on their iPhones.
Oh yeah, well yeah. First, when film first came out, that's what the major market was for porn. To use it for
the internet. The internet is there because of porn. I mean, all of these different porn companies and everything, they knew that
robots will be there because of porn.
Yeah, it was easy access to the porn would be done if the internet got to be really popular. They pumped so much money into making sure the internet became what it has become. It's scary the amount of funding that they put into that kind of thing.
What's really scary now about technology, and a lot of people don't realize it, is that the technology that we get is not new technology. As far as the government's concerned, what we have now is completely outdated by, I can't even, years.
Yeah, usually it's about 50 years. That's why I was always careful to say, the public knowledge, the public technology. Because there's also that other section of things.
You realize too that was a Doctor Who plot line in this last season too. When you talk about them having artificial versions of us to see how people would react to situations, that was actually in a Doctor Who plot line this year. You watch this whole episode, this doctor uncovering this conspiracy, in the Vatican and all this stuff, and it all ends up, sorry, spoiler, is it ends up being that he's not really the doctor and his companion's not really his companion, that they're all artificial versions of themselves. They're playing out to see how the aliens could take over. And the doctor figures it, the artificial version of the doctor, of course, figures this out and sends a message to the real doctor. But, you wonder, how are they playing these, it's game theory scenarios, kind of like, I know there's the idea of game theory where you can give a numerical value to certain concepts and what people can do mathematically, and the probability of certain things happening in the world. They've developed this called game theory. Well, imagine giving that theory to a computer, a supercomputer, and letting it roll with all this data.
Or an artificial intelligence running on a couple of quantum computers.
Yeah, exactly. It could figure out a lot.
Yep. And that's the thing. A lot of these things are now running on quantum computers. Again, publicly, we don't have access to much as far as quantum computing goes, but those things are way developed, at this point. And you take a look at D-Wave, the ones that are connected to Google and CERN, the quantum computers, they don't process in the way that our desktops or our laptops do, or even the phones. Those things they process in very linear fashion, ones and zeros on and off, and it's just a continuous string that goes on. And you might have 8 cores or something like that, and each of those can process in a different, processing different data, but it's still ones and zeros in a linear fashion. These quantum computers, they process in 4 different ways. They process in on, which is 1, off, which is 0, on, off, off, as well as all of them at the single time. They can process 4 different ways instantaneously, and they can not only process it in linear fashion, step by step, but they can also process backwards as well. I mean, these things are absolutely they're mind blowing when it comes to the things that they can do. But a lot of these artificial intelligences are running off of these quantum computers. That's their heart. So yeah. They're pretty amazing.
And what does Skynet do in Terminator when it gets hooked up online? It decides it wants to kill us all. When they hooked it up to the network, if you watch the third crappy Terminator movie, that's what happens. Skynet goes online onto the internet. They can't even destroy Skynet because it is the internet now. It just became the whole network. There's no mainframe or anything. It is the whole internet, and it ends up killing everybody. I'm
sorry. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
I liked in Fallout 4, the Automaton DLC that they put out had heavy involvement as far as the AI and that kind of thing is concerned. And one of the things that happened in it is the person that created this, spoiler alert, the person that created the machines gave them the command to go out and help humanity. And they ended up going out killing everybody because they decided the best way to help humanity is not to try to, survive and struggle in this, fallout world and devastation all around them. The best way to help them out is just to kill them and put them out of their misery. You see?
Yeah, exactly. Well,
Same
they
kind of
shouldn't.
scenario.
Don't let the children suffer.
Now, what's sad, Jason? You mentioned Skynet. What's sad is that the DOJ is actually currently. I'm sorry, the DOD is currently working with IBM and their Watson artificial intelligence, which now actually is a lawyer. It actually is a lawyer.
And medical too. It's a doctor too.
Right. And a medical as well. Literally, they've become a paralegal. So you have an artificial intelligence now doing that. But anyways, they're looking at making Watson in control of the nuclear button.
That's the stupidest idea in the world.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, I know, it's horrible.
A couple of months ago.
Horrible.
They obviously didn't watch the great performance by Matthew Broderick in War Games. Come on.
Yes.
They did not watch that great movie. Come on.
Exactly. Want to play a game.
Go get on your Fire Stick and go look up War Games, you government people.
All I could think to myself when I read the Washington Times article about it was, have they never watched a science fiction movie or read a book?
It never ends well. It never ends well.
Never.
Unless you have Matthew Broderick. It's a scary idea. We're getting more and more technology. I mean, even the top people like Elon Musk, Stephen Hawking, they all warn that AI is a very dangerous thing that could become very dangerous. If we don't, watch what we're doing.
Kurzweil did, as a response to Elon Musk of that, coming out and saying that, said that he was fear mongering and he was very doing a disservice to humanity by coming out and saying that.
Who said that? I missed that.
Ray Kurzweil, from Google.
Oh, of course, because he wants to be part machine, part human. He wants to be the transhuman.
Right.
Are you getting a call?
I'm not getting a call. It's not my phones.
Not me.
Nope. But you talk about science fiction. When I was a kid, I saw this really bad movie by Oliver Stone, but I still wasn't fascinated by it, with Jim Belushi. That's why it was bad. Called Wild Palms. It was a TV miniseries, actually, and in that it was all virtual reality, like it was an addiction and stuff. And the creator of this old man ends up, his whole point of it was to put himself into the machine, to become one with the machine. That doesn't end well for him either. My thing is too, that I've seen a lot of programs where they say, well, this machine can learn everything about you and copy you and do that, and then you can download your brain waves to it, and it'll mimic everything about your personality and everything, but it's still not you. I mean, how do you put a soul into a machine? How do you become the ghost in the machine? And that still wouldn't be cool. But in my idea, that can never happen. I could always see like the government saying, we can put you in the machine now. We're overpopulated, so you can join virtual world, and we can put you in there. But no, it's just going to be a copy of you. It's not going to be you. My brain cannot concept that there's any way that we could physically put ourselves into a machine unless you're like strapping it into our brains, and our brains are left in a jar, and that's not a pretty concept either.
They say that the technology we have that surpasses what we know is either handed down from us over time through secret societies, or is reverse engineered.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's like, who knows what they have and what they're working on. I've heard some really horrible theories about soul harvesting and soul reaping from reptilians.
Oh yeah, that's something you go down that rabbit hole.
Ugly stuff, I mean, it's just ugly stuff.
Have you guys looked into John D. and the things that happened with him when he set up getting in contact with the beings that were outside?
He was channeling them. them.
Right. Yeah. He came up with the whole Enochian language, and one of the things that I found in my research about that whole incident is that one of the reasons why they wanted it to be done was to lead lead humanity into creating technologies that they would be able to make use of to be able to come into the physical realm. You see what I mean? And that I always bear that in mind. Maybe that's part of what's going on, is that this technology has been, given to us, quote unquote, by these beings in order to facilitate them. All I can think of is Hellboy and the beings, the Cthulhu beings that are out there on the outside, waiting to come in through the tunnel.
Well, that's a lot of people fear what CERN's doing. They think CERN's trying to open up a portal.
Oh my God, CERN! Little weird ceremonies. Like, what is that?
Yeah, I mean, they get to admit that, we've had that on the World Wide Web of Weird, where they had the ceremony at CERN, where these guys are all in hoods, and they say, "Oh, it was some scientists here. It was a little bit too much time on their hands." CERN had to come out and admit it because it was right on their front lawn.
I know. Of all places, right? Like, do it in the backyard at least. I mean,
they've got the statue of Shiva out front, and they say that they're regular scientists.
Right.
Yeah. They say they're just these scientists that are doing this research, but they admit one of the researches that they're doing is to literally rip open a portal into another dimension just to see what's there. That's not a smart idea, people.
But science has made those decisions before. Let's blow something up and see what happens.
And now China is building an even bigger one. Right. I certainly don't want them in charge of this stuff. Who gave them permission to screw around with our world like this? You see what I mean?
Maybe the world is going to end.
I'm just going to throw this out there. Don't they have one smaller version outside of Chicago?
They do. Yeah, actually, there's multiple.
Now we have this flying phantom owl man business going on.
True.
Yes.
I'm not saying that that's what it is, but when we're talking about what could be or what may possibly be, is it plausible that something like that could? I mean, they're either gonna eventually come up with something either through their machines that they're making or through the ceremonies that they're conducting.
Yeah. And I think it's both combined, really. I think it's both combined.
Yeah, I agree.
Because energy, I mean, when it comes down to it, we're just energy. The microphone that I'm talking into, it's not real. This body isn't real. It's all made up of atoms. And when you break it down even further into the quantum level, nothing exists until anything exists. You see what I mean? So, that's what we all are. So when we're focused on a ritual, or when we're focused on a certain, thing, like with the doom porn stuff, for instance, we're literally being able to create this stuff to make it happen. You see what I mean? We kind of lead ourselves down the
path of your destructor.
Yeah, you are God. Exactly.
At least our elections have turned into that. But sorry,
it's pretty much that way. But I mean, it's the stuff kind of gets really disturbing when you start really looking into it. I mean, I do a lot of talk on my shows because it's a really popular topic with my shows. But I talk a lot about the Mandela effect. I don't know if you guys
I
really
love that topic. Oh yeah.
But one of the things, as far as the Mandela effect goes, I've had a few really dramatic Mandela effect experiences that are on a personal level. Like, for instance, my wife and I apparently are not the same wife and I that we started out being, because at one point in time, like, I'm a person who absolutely hates ketchup and everything that it stands for. I'm totally dead set against this stuff. It's oh my God, I can't even stand the smell of it.
Oh
and
gosh, I cannot stand the smell of ketchup.
And yet at some point in time, I became different with her. And I told her how much I loved ketchup. I taught her how to make certain sandwiches with ketchup and so on and so forth. But to me, I never have done that. Not even once in my life have I ever done that. And yet she has a very distinct memory where this happened. You see what I mean? So anyways, it's a very bizarre situation. But with the Mandela effect, one of the things that I found out when I was researching all of this stuff is in CERN's official video that they did, it's on their official channel. They have done this video of them dancing to the song "Happy" by what was his name? Pharrell Williams or Pharrell Jones. Anyways, so they were doing this song and they're doing this dance and going on about it and everything. And right in the middle of it, it's like the 2 minute and 13 second mark ish in the video. They have one of the scientists. He's sitting at a desk and he has a paper with some weird writing on it that he keeps like putting back and forth in front of one of his eyes. And then you look at his chest and it has number 1 Bond. Then it fades out, goes to a different scene, and it comes back to him again. And now it shows him with that paper in front of his eye, the number 1 Bond sign on his chest, and another sign below that that says Mandela. Now, at first I thought maybe it's relating to like one of the first Mandela effects that seemed to be getting a popular notice, which was the movie, the James Bond movie Moonraker, where the character Jaws has these, big metal teeth and everything. And his thing in that movie was he fell for this girl, Dolly, in the moment because she had these big braces as well. Right. And they sort of had,
and she was huge.
Yeah. And they sort of had this big, moment together because they were equal. You see what I mean? And yet, if you watch that movie now, she doesn't have braces.
What?
Yes.
Yes, she did. I've seen that movie a billion times. I have it on.
You see what I mean?
I got it
now
on DVD.
Mandela affected.
I'm gonna have to rewatch that. I'm gonna have to rewatch it. You're saying she does not have braces in it now?
She does not have braces now. So
I swear to God, she had braces. I watched that movie a billion times.
Because that was one of the big parts of the storyline was that he loved her because she was like him. You see what I mean? She was big. She had the braces, on and on. Okay. Well, anyways, so in this video again, they show number 1 Bond and Mandela. So I was thinking at first, maybe it was relating to the fact that movie was one of the first ones that people noticed something went wrong. You see what I mean? But then I got to thinking about it, and I did some research to it, and what I found was that the first portrayal of James Bond, the first one, was in the 1950s. It was a Americanized cover of Casino Royale. And the person who played James Bond was an American actor named Barry Nelson. Mm-hmm. So now you have number 1 Bond, the first person to play Bond, his name is Barry Nelson. Now you look at the sign below. Number 1. Yeah, you have Nelson Mandela. So you have CERN, who I think is absolutely related to the Mandela effect happening, messing around and putting out this video that shows number 1 Bond, Nelson Mandela. Why is that there in any other case? You see what I mean? It's really bizarre, and it really makes me wonder.
Well, maybe
what they're all the symbolism too, and that's symbolism's big to them. And
it is.
Faith is even. I mean, they get off on that. They must because it's everywhere you look.
Wait, I say maybe I'm a big James Bond fan. You bring up James Bond, I have their second and third edition Ian Fleming's novels of his his first 13, his only, and I remember getting into James Bond and having all the movies and that stuff, and I found out years later about Casino Royale, which I loved the novel, but I found out they did this movie. Before the Bond movies, and that's why they had to wait for the rights to come out for it before they could revamp it with Daniel Craig to do the Casino Royale movie. But I all those years I was a Bond fan, reading all these books and all that stuff, and I never knew about that movie till way later.
Yeah,
it makes me wonder. Maybe that whole movie never existed at some point, and then some time travel went back and said, "Hey, you heard of the Ian Fleming James Bond novels? You should make a movie of that in America. Make it a comedy too." Because that's what it was. If you've ever watched it, it's complete. Like, it seems like British humor, even though it's in America, and it's an American. He's Jimmy Bond. Yeah. He's not James Bond. He was Jimmy Bond. I mean, and I felt weird watching it. The one time, I could bear through to watch it just because I had to, being a James Bond fan. The whole movie felt weird to me. So when you bring this up, I'm starting to wonder if, for me, that whole Casino Royale is a Mandela effect to me.
It could be.
Dun, dun, dun.
It could be. When it comes to this, I've always said, there's multiple dimensions. We're not in the only one. There are multiple ones. I totally believe in the idea of the multiplicity kind of theory. Where for every decision that's made, there's a new dimension that's created. But I think that when the universe saves data, I guess you could say, by crashing dimensions together that are sort of closely related to each other. Like, for instance, if Jason, you decide that you want to have chocolate ice cream instead of strawberry ice cream, there's still a universe that's created where you had strawberry ice cream. But if that's the only thing that's different in that universe comparatively, in order to save data, it sort of crashes into the other. And I think what ends up happening is that as these dimensions crash into each other, there's sort of a consensus reality effect that's taking place. If more people believe that X thing happened as opposed to Y thing, then X thing is the thing that's the reality, and that there are some people who, for whatever reason, their minds have been tweaked in a certain way that they notice that X thing was supposed to be Y thing, and they never actually got completely overwritten with that knowledge, you see. And so those are the people that are experiencing the Mandela effect.
I think about the Mandela effect a lot. When people bring that up and they want to know how interesting it is, I'll think about like an actor that suddenly appears in something and find out he's been in this and this and this and be like, man, I don't remember that person at all. You know, and
Billy Graham's a big one for me. I put out a video a while back about this one. Billy Graham's a big one for me. I have a very, very distinct memory of Billy Graham dying. My mom and dad both love this guy. He's a big, big guy for him or for them. And when he died, which was back in about 1997 or 1996, he had a state funeral. All of the presidents that were alive came to the state funeral. There were celebrities. I mean, he's, you know, America's preacher. You know, they broadcast it on ABC TV. And my mom sat on the couch with me and cried her eyes out over the loss of this man. And, you know, I wasn't young then. I'm in my 20s at that point, you know, and so when you, especially in your 20s, you're watching your mother grieve. This is not something that you forget about or misconstrue in some kind of way. I found out later, after he died, after he died, his son took over his ministry at the argument of the board of directors of the ministry because of his past. They didn't want his past basically interfering with the ministry, but he decided, screw you, I'm going to go ahead and go on with it anyways. And it caused a whole big, you know, skew kind of thing to occur. So later I found out Billy Graham's still alive. He's still alive and well, he's still preaching, for Christ's sake. Okay, so with that being said, what the hell's going on here? Because I
very
distinctly
specific memories.
Yeah, a very, very distinct and specific memory. And people, you know, when I've talked about this, they've tried to tell me, well, you're just remembering Oral Roberts dying, you know, because he died at around that time. And I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, number one, did Oral Roberts have a state funeral? Number two, did they broadcast it on ABC TV? Number three, my mom couldn't stand Oral Roberts and would never grieve over that man sitting there, you know, dying. And yet she sat there grieving over this person dying. So, no, absolutely wrong. It was never Oral Roberts. It was not his wife. It was not any of the other hundred of things that people have tried to come up with as excuses to explain it. It was Billy Graham, period.
Well, where I get into the Mandela effect is I love time travel. And I love the idea of time travel. And you talked about before about small differences and universes merging to save compressed data. And I love that theory. I've thought about it kind of pretty much the same way you have. But something like Billy Graham wouldn't think would be small data. He has an effect upon a lot of people, and, you know, so something like that could be time travel. I mean, Billy Graham had friends in the State Department. You know, he's a preacher to America. Somebody State Department's like, you know, that secret time travel program? Billy Graham just died. We need to go back and fix that. We need him preaching for a little bit longer. So
exactly.
Can we get this done now by yesterday? By yesterday, be done? Yeah. Okay. All right. Do that.
And it could kind of bleed over that's happening with those of us that have noticed it, because I'm not the only one. I've had actually thousands of responses to the video that I put out regarding that.
Yeah, tons of people responded to the whole
yes,
Mandela
absolutely.
effect.
This was what happened. I remember it distinctly myself, you know. So it's a very bizarre subject. I know a lot of people are like really, you know, poo-pooing on the idea and thinking, well, there's just some kind of psychological effect or it's a psyop or something like that. But it's like, okay, nobody ever came to me and told me Billy Graham was dead. I saw him. I saw his funeral. You see what I mean? There was no psyop that took place there. You know, explain that. Explain how my wife has a distinct memory of me being a different person, you know, that loves ketchup, and I have no distinct memories of it. You know,
unless it's your brother. We talked about that last show.
I mean, it could be, but from her understanding of things, it was not. It was actually a thing. But she's got another one as well. You know, one of hers as well is that she's got a sister that never existed. And she went to the funeral of this sister. You know, I mean, again, I've got a couple of videos about that one as well. But
she doesn't have a sister. It didn't exist.
That particular, well, she's got a sister that ended up dying, but that particular sister didn't end up actually existing. Like, for instance, when her mom and she went to go somewhere, and I think it was at a mall or something like that, and there was a woman that they met, and it was a black lady. And I'm saying that for a reason. It was a black lady that they met. And her mom stood and talked to her for a while, gave her a hug, you know, on and on and on. And then after they left, her mom looked at her and said, "Do you know who that was?" And she said, "No." And she said, "That's your adopted sister. My husband and I adopted her a long time ago and raised her for a number of years." And I mean, went on with the big story about it. Now, the thing that's weird about this is that Jolene, my wife, she would talk to people about this, you know, talk to her friends, you know, "Yeah, I got a sister. I mean, I found out, blah, blah, blah," you know. And then when she brought the subject up to her mom just a couple of months later, her mom had no clue what she was talking about. She had no understanding about it at all. And to top it all off, she is the most racist person that I have ever met in my life. There is no way that she would have ever adopted a black girl as a child. None whatsoever. And yet, this is what she told my wife. So I can either believe my wife, or I can call her a liar, you know, and I choose to believe her in this.
Oh, well, yeah.
So it's you know, there's things like that. And people, when I've talked about this, they say, "Well, that's not a Mandela effect. That's just some kind of personal experience." And it's like, well, a Mandela effect is notice that something is not the same as it should be. So how is that not a Mandela effect? I mean, it's not how it should be, right? It's just, you know, things like that are really happening on a more frequent basis. I mean, it's like, it seems like every day something new is coming up, you know?
The more they mess around and CERN.
It could be, you know, it seems like every time they turn it on, I get those headaches. I get the crawling on my skin on a constant basis. You know, it's just, I know when they flip that sucker on, you know? So it's like, you know, and then right after it gets flipped on, we start noticing the spillover of a lot of these new Mandela effects that keep popping up. You know, people start talking about, "Oh, did you see the Disney movie, Mirror, Mirror on the Wall" isn't actually Mirror, Mirror on the Wall. You know, I mean,
oh yeah, I know. And there's movies that came out in the past. I'm like, why did I never know about that movie? And like, you never knew about that movie? I mean, I've had things like that. You know, I think and it's a very personal experience. Well, we are at the midnight hour, so we do need to end. Thank you, everyone who watched tonight. I'm sorry Lori Johnson did not make it on. Maybe we'll get her rescheduled. You know, I'm sure she has a good reason why she didn't show up. She might have fallen asleep. It's a late night for some people. She's out I think she's in West Virginia, so it's Eastern time, so it's later for her. So that might have been why we missed her. I'll find out. Maybe we'll get her, hopefully get her rescheduled. Thank you, Kevin and Jen, for coming on.
Thank you for having us on. We miss you guys too. It was awesome. Thank you.
And thank you, Ira, for always filling in when I need you. Because we can talk
I'm
about
sorry
all kinds
I
of
used
stuff.
up so much time. I'm sorry I used up so much time. My goodness, I didn't even know what time it was.
No, but I enjoy having you on because we can always go down these rabbit holes. And boy, do we do fast. We went down a number of conspiracy topics like in a row. And thanks, Bill and Rob. I know it's hard for you. You guys are on the paranormal end of like ghosts and stuff, so you don't get into the UFO or the.
Oh no, I'm definitely into this stuff.
Yeah, well, I know you're into it, but it's hard for you to jump in sometimes. Jamie, though, she's wild enough. She knows this stuff, though. I know she does. Well, thank you, guys. Next Sunday is going to be our ITC Collective show. We're going to be doing live spirit boxes for people that are new to that. I haven't seen one of those shows yet. It's called ITC Collective Night, Paranormal Zoo. Call in, see if the spirits want to talk to you. We're going to hopefully have Matt Benton on that was on last week and Christopher Rocky Gates to try out the Solomon app that's just going to get released on the 19th, so tomorrow, right? No, 2 days from now, not tomorrow. So you can get that app, but we'll be testing out live on the show. Hopefully we'll have the creators here with us. Matt Payne would be awesome to have, but he's in England, so I doubt I could get him on. But it'll be open lines, guys. Call into the show. We'll have the Skype lines open. See if the spirits want to talk to you. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll be back next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. See you then.